And now I'd like to open the meeting to the sharing of testimonies of healing through Christian Science. Jeremy.
I am so grateful tonight for God bringing me here to Plainfield and giving me this work to do. Yesterday's calendar statement had the following from Mrs. Eddy. There is plenty of work for all. Yours belongs to you, and no one else can do it. I am so thankful for the promise held in that statement because I often don't know what to do with myself if I am not working. In fact, the time that used to be the basis of any depression I had. Spending time not doing anything left me with the feeling I didn't have a place in the world or a reason to be here. So if the work is mine and no one else can do it, then I must be in the place that God has made for me. God has given me the work and also given me the ability to do the work with what I am learning here about Christian Science. For me, that is proof that this church is the structure of truth and love, because it is the framework for me to learn, work, and spiritually progress all at the same time. If that is true for me, then it must be true for everyone that works for the church. I'm so grateful for all the lessons I have learned here at this church and through my practitioner. What a wonderful opportunity we have here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Chardell from Pennsylvania, go ahead.
First of all, I want to thank you for the beautiful readings tonight. Perfect. And tonight, I would like to express my gratitude for a quick healing thanks to my practitioner's support and prayers. This is how it all happened. My nephew once had a very responsible job with a law enforcement agency, and due to arrogance and greed, has ended up in jail. The Bible study last week about Uzziah in Chronicles 2:26. This has helped me to understand this type of dilemma. Last weekend, before my nephew was to be sentenced in California, I became ill to the point of having to leave a restaurant. Realizing my sorrow had turned from compassion to pity, I needed to be humble and ask for help from my practitioner, which I did. Immediately, my stomach issue stopped, and I was able to read and reestablish the understanding that compassion would lead me to trust the Christ to lift up my nephew and sustain him through this experience. He did apologize in court to his nation, government, friends, and family for his behavior, and is in a state of repentance, which I believe will restore him to right thinking and right acting. Also, I want to say that I think it's God's mercy in the fact that he will be returning east to serve out his sentence. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Gary.
I'd like to give my gratitude tonight for another one of life's great lessons that I've been able to have as a result of the Christian Science that is taught and practiced in this church. Before I got here, I had some really bad beliefs about myself, and one of them was about what brings happiness. I mean, I genuinely thought that, you get happiness by having certain kind of education or certain kind of job or hanging out with certain kind of people or accomplishing certain things. And I even believe that you're supposed to be happy by playing games and winning. And so I pursued activities that I thought would make me happy, and I was generally very disappointed and still searching. And I thank God that search led me to the Plainfield Church. Because it was a practitioner in this church who saw the need and helped me to see that happiness can never be obtained by trying to please the material senses or doing anything selfishly for that matter. That happiness can only be obtained by one thing, and that is to do whatever it is that God wants for me to do it joyfully, willingly, each day. And that means, generally, helping others. In Christian Science, we learn that God is all there is, and that as His children, we have an infinite supply of good available to us. But it can never be obtained for a selfish purpose. It has to be shared, given, in order to be obtained in the first place, and to be permanent. Well, once I got this through my thick skull, it really did make some important changes in my life, for which I'm very grateful. For example, I don't play games so much anymore. And if I ever do, I don't really care who wins, or if anybody wins, as long as it's a blessing for everybody involved. So I'm grateful for the practitioners in this church that have taught me how to obtain happiness. And I'm very happy to be here with you all tonight.
Thank you. Luann from New York, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm grateful to God for opening the way for me to learn and understand my relationship with Him. His grace and mercy has truly blessed me. A short while ago, when I found myself facing my fear of running heavy equipment, I was able to stand up against it and declare the truth with conviction because of the lessons I have learned through studying Christian Science here at the Plainfield Church Independent. I have been given a job painting a sign on the front of a 2-story building. But in order for me to do this job with efficiency, I had to overcome my fear. I had to work off of scaffolding for a couple days, but because of the size of the job, it was not possible to reach as high as I needed or move about the wall freely to measure. The owner of the business brought me a large piece of equipment that had a long boom arm with a basket that I could get into and control, moving myself to wherever I needed to be on the face of the building. I started to panic and had all kinds of fearful thoughts running through my head. I yelled silently, "Stop. You have no power over me." Then a message came to me that said, "I suffer and struggle needlessly when the all-sufficiency of God is at hand." I began to recall the many truths I have learned concerning God and man. The Bible teaches us that God gave man dominion, and as His child, it is my duty to exercise this right. Panic stopped and the fear left. I got in the basket, started the machine, and lifted myself up the wall. Not only was I running it without fear, but I felt like I'd been running it all my life. I have been using this machine every day with complete confidence and trust in God, knowing that in Him we live and move and have our being. I'm so thankful for all I've been given. My life has truly been changed by Christian Science. I'm so thankful to be learning these lessons, and I'm deeply grateful for my practitioner who continues to work and pray, teach me not only that I can, but I must, with conviction, declare the truth, to never stop seeking and obeying the will of God. Thank you.
Thank you. Linda from Pennsylvania, go ahead.
Good evening. I am so very grateful for the Bible, for Mary Baker Eddy's writings, this church, and practitioner support here at Plainfield. I am also very grateful this evening particularly for our Bible lesson that's compiled here at Plainfield. The way that it goes from week to week, building on each other, and every week with a special theme. And within each lesson, there is an orderly selection of principles that are assembled together that instruct, encourage, correct, and inspire. We have also a chance during the weekend to discuss ways to make this practical. It's priceless. I want to share a healing that took place while I was turning to one of the Bible lessons. I had injured my shoulder during an activity that happened so suddenly I was unable to brace myself. The next day I could barely move my arm due to the pain. The lesson during this time had a lot on trusting God. Some of the citations that stuck out to me were, "Behold, God is my salvation. I will trust and not be afraid. Also, in thine hand is power and might, and to give strength to all." And from Science and Health, "Truth makes man free." Each day there was less pain, and in about 4 days I had complete, full, normal use of the arm, and it's actually even stronger than it was before. This lesson helped me focus on God and not on my problem. Thank you very much, Plainfield, for these beautiful Bible lessons that can be found on the website or purchased. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Lillian, go ahead.
Before coming to this church, I never stood for anything, but the teaching here and practitioner help has changed that. By going to God for everything I do, I can stand with courage and strength and no longer feel I'm a victim, but instead a victor. I'm so grateful for the examples of Jesus and Mrs. Eddy. Christian Science saves lives. It saved mine, and I'm very grateful. And thank you for those readings.
Thank you. Barbara or Ken from Pennsylvania, go ahead.
Hello. Years ago, as a divorced parent raising a teenage boy with much difficulty, I had the continuing support of a non-judgmental, compassionate Christian Science practitioner. It's a good thing, too, even crucial, as it turned out that correcting the great difficulties I was having with this boy had to start with correcting myself, my parenting. I could not have done it without this practitioner's helpful approach. I have found this same quality of compassion in a Plainfield practitioner. Thank you, God. Thank you, Plainfield Church, for supporting this kind of thinking. And thank you, Plainfield practitioner, for doing the hard work. And excuse me for getting all teary. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, this is Bruce. I'd like to say how thankful I am for the watching point that's on the Daily Watch that's on our website right now. In that watching point, Mr. Carpenter gives an illustration about someone who cleans the leaves that fall off the trees off of their sidewalk and gets up the next day just to find them covered again, and he has to go out and clean them again, and this is done repeatedly. And the point being is not to be discouraged or not try to fall for the lie of the devil that would say, the work that we did the first day didn't work because look what's happened today. You know, it's all designed to get you frustrated and discouraged. Whereas you are actually doing good, doing the right thing, and making progress. So just goes to show what a liar the devil is anyway. I can remember years ago, this watching point was being taught to us by our teacher here in the class, in this church. And it helped me immensely because at that time, I was working on a job that it looked like was very challenging, and every day that I went to this job, sure enough, there were other problems that I thought I had solved the first day. But learning about this watching point and the message that it had, it saved me from getting discouraged and frustrated, or maybe even snapping, because as it ended up, that job finished and finished successfully. But I have to give credit for the teaching on this watching point that I received at the time. It pretty much carried me through that job. So it just goes to show the power of truth and the very special message that's included in that watching point. It helped me immensely then and many times since then. I'm very grateful for it.
330941.
Okay, someone is called in from area 330941. Can you please announce yourself and then go ahead with your testimony?
Oh, yes, Myra, and I'm calling because I'm so grateful for the progress I have made in my life in facing challenges and in making decisions without the fear and anxiety that I have had, and by seeking only God's direction in all situations. I'm very grateful to my practitioner, Mrs. Eddy in Plainfield, and I'm thankful for all that Plainfield has to offer during the week. Thank you so very much. Good night.
Thank you.
Florence or Day?
Either Florence or Day. Go ahead.
This is Day. Thank you. I'm grateful for what I'm learning in this church about the importance of keeping God first and making regular practice of thanking Him and asking Him for guidance first thing every morning and all throughout the day. I used to go about each day with a false sense of responsibility, completing unnecessary tasks while trying to please everyone. And this took a toll on me mentally, emotionally, and physically. Since coming to Plainfield, I've learned that my most important duty each day is to thank God continually, no matter what seems to be going on, to ask constantly for His guidance and direction, and to be sincerely willing to let Him lead me and open to the ideas He gives. Doing this allows me to complete several tasks throughout the day, as necessary, without feeling tired, rushed, anxious, or stressed. And I'm able to better maintain my joy while doing so. This has been such a significant blessing for me, and I'm so thankful for a new way to live. Thank you so much for tonight's meeting, the readings, and all of your testimonies.
Thank you. Carol, go ahead.
Here, I used to be scared to death to make a mistake. I'm not sure if it was pride or fear or probably a combination, but I asked a practitioner for help with it, and the practitioner told me that when you come into this church, you find that as you learn, old things drop away. And just like she used to say, like a steamship going into fresh water, all the barnacles fall off. And she said, and that's just what will happen to you. And she prayed for me, and I really don't know when it happened, but just all of a sudden I didn't have that clenching fear anymore. And so now it's wonderful. I just say, oops, and apologize for making a mistake. But it is such a freedom. That was such a binding thing. That was just awful. And I am so very grateful for the freedoms that I found here in Independent Christian Science and for the help of practitioner. I'm very, very grateful for this church. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike from New York, go ahead.
Yesterday I went to watch one of my neighbor's daughters play soccer, and it got me remembering back many years ago when she was young and was having the mother told me she was having a lot of problems in school, and I had worked through Christian Science with my daughter on exactly that subject. So I told her some things about Christian Science, gave her a copy of Science and Health and a copy of the King James Bible, and told her that would resolve the issue. And that was in fall, start of the school year. Some couple of months later, she very kindly returned the books, which I wish she had kept, but they appeared to be very clean and not really opened. And then in the following spring, I stopped by one day to talk with the father. He said he had very little time because they were going to take their daughter out for dinner to celebrate because she had excelled so well in school that year that their fear of her not being able to advance to the next class had proved to be unfounded. I was so grateful just the power of God and just sharing His Word could bring such a result. And so I have so much faith in the power of God. And what I am so grateful now coming into Plainfield is learning to consistently apply this to correct my thinking, which I have known has been an issue in not being as successful as I would like to be, and the constant reminders in all the Bible lessons and round tables on how to keep our thinking clear. I so appreciate the moral standard and the courage that this church represents.
Thank you.
I'd like to express gratitude for a healing my mother had. Yesterday when I called her, she said she had lost her engagement ring that she's had for many, many years. And I told her that to stop looking for it. Nothing is lost in divine mind, and God would show her where it is. Well, today when I got home from work and called her, she was all happy. She said she found it, and she said, I looked there and I looked there, but I didn't find it until I stopped looking. And God showed me the way. I am just so grateful that God takes care of everything and would never let anyone be lacking something they love. The science is just a wonderful way of life, and I'm so grateful to be led to this church and for all the teaching and practitioner help I've received. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary?
Okay, I have a few things to read tonight. The first from California. Dear friends, thank you, Plainfield Church, for all you do for Christian Science and the world. What a privilege to have a church without walls. So many ways to participate in church activities, services, and publishing, etc. Enclosed is a check for my monthly contribution. And then on our church bulletin board from Pennsylvania, thank you, Faith, for another beautiful solo sung with clarity and sincerity. I loved the message. The music played with the solo was lovely. Also, it was wonderful to hear Benjamin reading the benediction. Each part added beauty and strength to a powerful service. Thank you, everyone, for all that you do. It is felt. And there was a beautiful one from Australia that we read at the round table on Sunday. And then another from Florida. Thank you for the dedicated love that puts together the forum highlights. It is very helpful to go back and review the inspired thoughts that have come to each of us while studying the lesson daily. I'm very grateful to be here tonight, too, to hear the beautiful readings and testimonies. I was telling someone today our whole week is in preparation. We read our lesson, we study it every day, the lesson that we're given, to study the truths. And then those of us who feel inspired write about it on the forum to tell what we've gotten out of our lesson, and that's on our website. Wednesday night we get together to give our gratitude to God for all the blessings we've received during the week. And then Saturday we have our Bible study, again discussing this wonderful lesson, and then Sunday we get to hear it being read as well as talk about it a bit at the round table. And in between all those times, we also have our unity watches and our individual watches. But all these activities keep our thoughts stayed on God, and really the Sunday service is a crescendo of the week, the days before, as we are using our science moment by moment. I was thinking of all the many healings I've had since coming to this church. One of when I was really painfully thin, and I didn't have much appetite, and I guess you could say I had a nervous stomach. And I didn't even think to get help with it, something I'd had for a long time, I guess, and didn't even occur to me to get help with it. And one day a practitioner mentioned it to me and kind of came after me and said, this isn't normal, it isn't right, you shouldn't be accepting this sort of chronic condition, and that I should be able to eat normally and not have this physical problem. And she also said that I was a shrinking thought. That was sort of horrible. I wasn't sure what she meant at first, but she said, well, you just shrink from things. You just try to make yourself as small as possible. And that's resulting in not eating and being so thin. Instead of embracing life with a capital L and loving life and having joy in the Lord, you shrink from things with fear and timidity. And I know I always thought of myself as being very, very shy, and I thought too, I never got help with that either. I thought that was just the way I was. And so she told me, well, shyness is selfishness. She said, you're thinking more about yourself than you are about anybody else. Anyway, by the time I was finished with the conversation, I realized I had a lot of work to do and that I couldn't just accept this state. I must say she rankled my pride quite a bit, but it needed to be rankled, and I needed to be raised up out of this false sense of self and to serve God more sincerely with my heart and soul, and to forget self in working for Him. And as I did this, and it didn't happen overnight, but certainly my appetite came back. I certainly don't have a problem with being painfully thin, and I don't have a nervous stomach, nor am I shy anymore. So, and I'm so grateful for all of that. It was a transformation of life. And I'm grateful for a practitioner who cared enough, who loved enough to go after me about it and not just, that's just the way she is, so we'll just leave her alone. No, she loved enough to speak up and to help me with it, and also to prove to me that science can heal every aspect of our life, and we do not have to go on with chronic problems thinking they're just normal. They're not normal. God made us in His image and likeness, and thank God for that. So grateful to be here tonight and for all that I'm learning in this wonderful way of life.
Thank you.